Welcome into NFL Daily Live once again on Tuesday. I am Tom Downey, producer Stone Shields behind the scenes for today's live show. We have lots of trade stuff to talk about. The NFL trade deadline is just around the corner, and there are quite a bit of NFL trade rumors out there around one Cooper Kupp, which is why, to the surprise of nobody, Omar's burner is back saying, why, yes, I am ready to get hurt again, with a Scotty Miller photoshopped. I assume it's Scotty Miller. He's still 13 for the Steelers, so I assume he picked the most recent guy. Photoshopped Cooper Kupp. We will talk a lot about Cooper Kupp today, as in the past 5-ish hours went from hey, teams are calling, but who knows what the Rams wants to do it, to, hey, the Rams will eat money to trade away Cooper Kupp and get an asset back. We'll break that all down for you. But will the Rams trade him? Y for yes, N for no. It is the pinned poll on today's video. 67% voting yes. 33% voting no. My answer would have changed in the last 6 hours probably. Of probably not. I do think the Rams are at least considering kind of a full-on teardown type of deal. Not even full on, but I could see this time next year them not having Matthew Stafford. I think that is a possibility. I don't think they're going to trade him necessarily right now, but I could see them kind of hey, let's rebuild a bit here. Let's move on from some of our older players, keep building the youth on that side of the football, which is a plan. And sometimes you just need a plan as an NFL GM, because that has not been a constant for the course of the NFL. There are some teams that just don't have a plan, that just trying weird things at weird times. So will the Rams trade him? Y for yes, N for no. Mig Pop something says yes. Junior Strata says yes. Tony just says yo. Will the Rams end up trading Cooper Kupp? We'll spend time on that, and we'll have full-on destinations for Cooper Kupp. I got 5 that I think certainly make some pretty good sense. Before we get into that, though, today's show is made possible by our friends over at Prize Picks. It is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. It is perfect with basketball just around the corner. Truly, hours away from getting going. With that in mind, Prize Picks is a free square for you guys. It's a no-brainer. Put it on every single one of your Prize Picks lineups. Otherwise, there's no point in not doing it. Anthony Edwards, a half point. It's all you need. It's a no-brainer. I'll ride with my boy Jeremy Chuggs, who are on NFL, so we get to be nice to Jeremy here. Alperen Şengün, more than 30.5 points in boards. Jalen Green, more than 21 points. It's available in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. They've got injury insurance policy as well. Player goes down the first half, does not return. Your lineup still stays alive. No one else offers that. So go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. It's code CLNS over at prizepicks.com/CLNS. All right, how many trades between now and the NFL trade deadline? Shout out to Nick Pop here for already using Prize Picks. Awesome to see. Hopefully you've won some nice money with that. How many trades between now and the NFL trade deadline? Even the smaller ones count. We've already had 2 big ones with Amari Cooper and Devontae Adams. How many trades? 4 from Junior Estrada, 4 from Twisted Wizard 33. EV says 21. That would be fun. I wish that the NFL had a little bit more of an NBA-esque trade deadline. I don't think they ever will. It's a different sport and different from everything else. But how many trades between now and the NFL trade deadline? 7 for Johnny Lopez, 0 for the Cowboys. Yeah, that's probably fair. If we're being honest. 10 from Ecuador. 10 might be a good over-under. I think we'll see a decent amount, but not like this big a couple big sexy names, but A lot of just like depth options, etc. 7-4, and Omar's burner says 0 for the Cowboys. Over-under's at a half. It might be a trade away, which you lose to the Niners, you lose to the Falcons and Eagles. Like, yeah, maybe you should trade. We'll see what happens between now and then. Adam Edwards says 8. Cole So Sporty says 8 as well. Ooh, Steve, what position gets traded the most? I'll go defensive line. I will actively cheat and pick a spot that has extra players at multiple spots. Like, you pick quarterback, you get one guy, right? D-line, you get 4. Like that's my cheating answer there. I think there are some beyond that. Probably receiver. We already had 2 guys. If I got the 2 previous guys, receiver certainly stands out. Get those comments in. How many trades between now and the actual NFL trade deadline later on in November? We will also talk Myles Garrett, since that is somehow a rumor, which stuff doesn't surprise me these days. I guess I should have expected it. What is the % chance the Browns actually trade Myles Garrett? Albert Breer has reported that teams have called, and I think that kind of got spun into, how the national media gets sometimes of, well, this said that, and that gets turned into like the Browns are listening, and it gets all out of whack. We'll break down what was really reported there. The answer should be very low. I might go like 1%. I think there is a scenario if a team just gets ultra aggressive and truly throws a record-setting trade package at the Browns. Because I do think that's what it will take. I think, post-Herschel Walker trade nonsense and not including draft day trades, this would probably have to be the most expensive trade. Like, not if we trade up for the number 1 overall pick and give up 3 firsts, whatever, but player for pick trade, it'd have to be a lot. Still a young pass rusher in his prime who, when healthy, is the best one in football or one of the best ones in football. It should be very expensive. So I see 10%, 13%, 10%, 5%. I think 5's closer. I'd be pretty shocked. Things have surprised me in the NFL. They always will, so it makes it fun. But I'd be pretty shocked. I know Garrett's off to a bit of a slower start this year. He's banged up. Still really good. All right, if you are ready for us to start today's live show, then like the video. The goal was always a 50% like ratio. We are at 10% right now, which is a bit of a disappointing number there. If you like what we do, you enjoy our live shows, make sure you're always liking our videos. Tells YouTube, hey, we should show this to more people. We get more audience. We get to continue to grow, expand the studios, on and on and on and on. So hit that like button if you haven't already. Coming up on today's live edition of NFL Daily, we'll talk NFL rumors, news, trades, Week 7 takeaways, a mailbag, 2 ways to get on the show. You can use hashtag NFL with your thoughts, comments, questions, concerns, you name it. Just put that hashtag NFL in there. Or skip the line, super chat like Omar's burner did. I knew he was going to be in the comments to talk about Cooper Kupp. I knew you were going to be here, Omar's burner. We will also run through Cooper Kupp trade destinations. There are 5 I like in particular that I think make at least a pretty good amount of sense relative to the rest of the NFL. So make sure you guys are locked in. Don't go anywhere. The live edition of NFL Daily starts right now. You're watching NFL Daily. Before we get into today's show, I do want to have a little quick programming announcement for you guys that's not exactly NFL related. We will be live for the World Series here on the Chat Sports YouTube channel. Dodgers versus Yankees, first pitch on Friday. We'll be live around 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. My boy Jack Lotteray's got you covered. So do not miss out for the Dodgers-Yankees World Series watch party. Game 1 gets going on Friday. Hit that sub button so you don't miss out. Over now to the rest of our previously planned NFL coverage. Myles Garrett. The trade rumors are here. I think at least in part to the hopes, desires, dreams of other fan bases and other NFL teams, and kind of kick-started by Albert Breer. I don't think he meant to do it this way, but you know how the game of telephone goes with the aggregators. It goes from teams called to Myles Garrett trade going to happen? Here's what Albert Breer actually wrote about the Browns in particular. Speaking of trades, the Browns will get phone calls now based on their 1-6 record and the fact that they just offloaded Amari Cooper. I don't think they'll move Myles Garrett, but some fishing has taken place. Anyone can call Denzel Ward or Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. Somehow that got turned into, wow, Browns might trade Myles Garrett. That's not what Breer wrote. In fact, he literally said it's probably not going to happen, but teams are going to call because that's how teams do business. I would be pretty darn shocked if a trade happened. And I think it would be, even though he's been a bit banged up here, not as good as he's been in years past, I think it would be wildly expensive for a team to go out and acquire Myles Garrett. You can think about what's happened over the years with some of the highly expensive, in terms of trade cost, big-time deals. Khalil Mack, Jalen Ramsey stands out, right? 2 firsts and a 4th. I don't even think that's the baseline for a Myles Garrett trade. I think you have to exceed that by at least an early round 2 pick. I don't think they're going to give him away for free. They're not going to give him away for nothing. This has been one of the best football players in the NFL over the last several seasons. And there's 2 players right now in football who have gotten double-digit sacks over the last 4 years. And Garrett's off to a slower start. It doesn't help his offense is so bad and the changes aren't that great. But he's still mostly trending towards being around that double-digit sack mark, which he's done every year of his NFL career, except for his rookie season when he played in 11 games. Like, if you're starting a list of best defensive players in football, still not quite yet 30-year-old Myles Garrett, doesn't even turn 29 until December. If he ain't number 1, he's number 2 or number 3 on that list. Even with the Browns kind of rebuilding, retooling here, Garrett's like the linchpin of that defense when they pay him again, probably this upcoming offseason. So I don't think a trade happens. With that in mind, what is the % chance the Browns trade Myles Garrett? I think it's a low number, but I want to hear from you guys. So let me know in the comments section, the pinned comment actually, of today's show, especially if that ad comes here on YouTube. Let's talk Cooper Kupp. Now, different reports here. We'll kind of combine Ian Rapoport and Dianna Russini here. That Kupp has drawn trade interest, and the Rams are more open to it than it would have previously been thought. Here's what Ian Rapoport reported before the Sunday games got going. Ian wrote, sources say during a frenzy of receiver calls that teams began calling the Rams to inquire about the status of Cooper Kupp. The, at the time, 1-4 Rams have not turned the page of 2025, and even considering a trade for Kupp would be complicated and multifaceted. But the interest from teams is there, thanks in part to some online speculation that has happened since the season began. Plenty of teams doing their research on receivers have him on that list. Now, today, this has developed a little bit differently than what Rap had previously reported. Dianna Russini came crashing onto everyone's timelines with this report. The Rams have called multiple teams about trading former Super Bowl MVP Cooper Kupp. Sources tell me Mike Silver and Jordan Rodriguez, those are the other athletic writers. The Rams have indicated a willingness to take on some of the 2024 salary, and are seeking a second-round pick. So similar to the Davante Adams trade, but this time they're eating some money to get a better draft pick back. Also of note, they called them. That's noteworthy. When the team with the players making the calls, that's an indication there's actually some interest in moving on there. We'll spend some more time on this here in just a second. But will the Rams trade Cooper Kupp? Y for yes, N for no. Sound off for me. Where else but the comment section of today's show? Now, Cooper Kupp has been banged up this year. The 2 games he played, he was pretty good, though. I think the biggest issue you have with Cooper Kupp is, can the guy stay healthy? When he has been out there, he's been one of the better receivers in football. At his age, at his injury history, you're probably not realistically going to get that magical 2021 campaign. Can you get 1,000-yard fringe receiver in kind of that power slot mold as he just turned 31 back in June? Maybe. Now, before the proration kicks in, and I want to make note here, proration means that you don't have to pay what has already been paid, right? It's about a $6 million difference between what the new team would owe already and the cap savings. So, call it $9-ish million is what's left for a new team to pay him this year, and 26 or 14 in savings from the Rams. They could adjust that number by the Rams eating some of it. What the Cooper Kupp contract is coming up is, $9 million owed by the new team after proration. Maybe less if the Rams eat some of that money. It's not that bad, frankly. The new team would owe $20 million in 2025, $5 million of which is guaranteed. That's it. That's actually very doable from a contract perspective, and even make it a, brief 1 year, 2 year extension type of deal. You can absolutely make that work. So with the Rams also willing to eat money, if that report is accurate, there's a real chance Cooper Kupp ends up getting traded before this year's NFL trade deadline. Now, today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. It is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. You can do that with as little as 4 correct picks. It is the best way to get in on action, or get action on sports in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. They also have an injury insurance policy. So if your lineups stay in play, even if one of your players gets hurt, player goes down the first half, does not return, Prize Picks keeps your lineup live. So sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play 5 and take advantage of one of their free squares. Anthony Edwards, more than a half point in the season opener. That one is just too easy not to do. So again, go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS to get that $50 instantly once you play your first $5 lineup. Of note, you don't even need to win to get the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. Another surprising trade report that emerged from NFL Network, by the way, is on Garrett Wilson. That's from ESPN, after the Davante Adams trade, NFL teams were calling the Jets like, hey, can we get Garrett Wilson from you? In what shouldn't be a surprise, the Jets were like, nah, we're good. Here's what Adam Schefter wrote. After the Davante Adams trade, a select group of NFL teams inquiring whether the Jets would be willing to trade fellow star receiver Garrett Wilson. The Jets heard from other teams but are not planning on trading him, because why would they? It doesn't make sense for the Jets to trade one of their 3, 4-ish long-term offensive core pieces to add draft picks and a win now. It doesn't make any sense at all. Mike Williams, they will trade him. Has Garrett Wilson lived up to expectations so far? No. I think the general offensive issues, the quarterback play is probably a big factor in that. But offensively, it's Garrett Wilson, it's Olu Fashanu, Elijah Vera Tucker, and Breece Hall. That is their offensive core beyond this upcoming season, or maybe 2 years from now, depending on when Rodgers ends up calling it a career. Like, you need him long term. In general, this is a great reminder. There are more calls placed to NFL teams than I think other people realize. I don't think people know that there's quite as many calls that get placed. Most of them end up going nowhere because, that's how it tends to go. There's not as much interest out there in trading away your best players. Teams call a lot, if only to figure out what the value is on a player that might get traded, so they can judge their own roster's trade value. So name a player who you do think ends up getting traded before this year's NFL trade deadline. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Let's talk Week 7 takeaways briefly here. The Deshaun Watson injury, however you feel about it, I think this much is true. I don't think there has ever been an injury in NFL history that has garnered less sympathy than the Deshaun Watson one. I think the general reaction was not like, oh man, that's heartbreaking. It was like ranging from apathy to he got what he deserved, right? You don't want to wish injuries on anyone. For some, Watson might end up being the exception. The downside here is, well, the Browns have a tough time getting out of that contract now. I don't know if he's going to be ready for Week 1 of 2025. And if he's not ready for Week 1, The Browns have to go find a new starting caliber quarterback. That might come via the draft. He might not play in Cleveland. And if he's not going to start in Cleveland, who wants Deshaun Watson right now? Because your backup can't be a distraction. He's a distraction. His long-term outlook, even beyond the injury, is extremely murky. Let's go to Tua next up here. He is set to return. That's the hope, the plan for Miami. He sounds like he's had no symptoms as of late. Football field only. The Dolphins need him. This Dolphins offense, objectively speaking, has been absolutely terrible without Tua. They have not been able to move the football on a consistent basis at all. Like they haven't played good ball. They scored 3 points against Seattle, 12 points against Tennessee, 15 against Indy, or 15 against New England, 10 against Indy. Can't win games like that. Of course, they went 1-3 in that stretch. Now, they're still in the mix in the AFC playoff picture, so they need Tua out there. Gotta protect yourself, bud. Like I get the football attitude, leaving on the table. I get why he wants to play. I understand that. Please just don't lower your head and try to run over people. Like, gotta protect yourself, man. And the fact that he kind of didn't really acknowledge that makes me a little bit worried. Let's go to Lamar Jackson. The Ravens' reigning MVP, might be going for a third one. He and the offense are dealing right now. Lamar Jackson, I think, looks better than what he played last year when he won MVP. I think in part because maybe the contenders weren't as great last year. He lit up the Bucs defense. He had zero issues against them. For the season, he got 15 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He's got 1,810 yards. You can do the math on how many he's going to get to. He is already at 455 yards. He is almost at the 500-yard mark. Among all players, he's 11th in yards on the ground. It just so happens, number one, is his teammate Derrick Henry, who looks better than he's looked in years. I think that duo, I will give Tom Monken a lot of credit. He has found ways to make it work, even in shotgun sets with Derrick Henry and Lamar, which I was a bit worried about given Henry's history. He just keeps busting off huge chunk gains. He's averaging 6.5 yards per carry. He has been an explosive play machine. He's got 10 20-plus yard rushes this season. That is more than some NFL teams have this year. In fact, it's multiple that he has more than. Right, Dallas? Speaking of Dallas, by the way, Jerry Jones once again went on to his radio show. He wasn't wrong with some of the things that he said. Now, he didn't apologize, whatever. Among the things he had said was he, didn't think Derrick Henry would be good in Dallas. They've got scheme issues that maybe the play kind of called out Mike McCarthy, said the play calls weren't that great, that the play designs weren't good either. A lot of what Jerry said, there were some things he was wrong about, the cap, etc. Henry would still be better than what they have in Dallas too. A lot of the stuff he said wasn't wrong. The problem is, Jerry, you picked the team. If you're going to demand a title, GM, for a job that you don't actually do, you have to take responsibility at some point. You don't get to play dress-up GM and then not be accountable for the mistakes that the GM would normally try to help solve. That's what kind of annoys me to an extent, that you just don't handle things properly, that they just don't find a way to take accountability and say, you know what, that was my fault. It's always somebody else's fault. That's what's frustrating in Dallas. Now, we mentioned Lamar. I almost put Jared Goff in today's video as well, but I wanted to tweak it a little bit here. I think Goff's going to answer this question too. Who wins NFL MVP this year? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Number 7, the Chiefs are not fair. This isn't how it's supposed to be. The Chiefs' offense is not playing good football. Injuries are a huge part of that. But if I told you that a starting NFL quarterback had 6 touchdowns against 8 interceptions, you'd say, "Oh, that's not too great." Oh, he's kind of hovering down there, league average in passing yards. Okay, they're what, about 500 or worse? No, they're undefeated. Mahomes didn't play well against the Niners. Then he has that incredible run where They just don't tackle him for some reason. Blows my mind every time it happens. They keep pulling out games that I kind of don't think they should be winning. Like, we can think about the games they've played, right? They could have easily lost to the Ravens. They should have lost to the Bengals. They've got 2 games that are by non-one score margins. The Saints, which they took care of business, and the Niners that hung around for a while. They keep finding ways to win close games, and that's annoying because they're not playing well right now, and they're still undefeated. How are you going to beat them in January? Now it is time for an NFL mailbag. There are 2 ways to get on the show. Number 1 is to use hashtag NFL. Simple, straightforward. Gets you in the queue, allows producer Chris or Stone to find your questions, bring them up on screen. So use hashtag NFL, or you can skip the line and super chat all together. I see Christian getting his hashtag NFL in there. I see some others in there as well. If you don't use the hashtag NFL, Stone cannot find your questions. So you kind of have to use it. Otherwise, we don't want to make Stone's life too challenging, do we? That's just not fun for anybody involved there. So use hashtag NFL or super chat to skip that line all together. I see Christopher's got some questions in there. Appreciate that, guys. As a reminder, for those of you tuning in live right now, our next live show will be on Friday. First pitch we'll start a live stream around 7:30. First pitch, knowing the networks isn't quite going to be at 8 o'clock. It'll probably be more like 8:08, somewhere in that range, given history there. But we'll be live for Dodgers-Yankees, Game 1 of the World Series on Friday. We'll be live, schedule permitting, for all of the World Series games this year. My boy Jack Lauder-Ray has you covered on that. So make sure to set your reminders and make sure you're subscribed. That way you will get a push notification when we go live for Dodgers-Yankees in this year's World Series. Before we get into today's mailbag, if you are unable to watch our live shows, your question does not get answered, you can always hit me up on Twitter. My DMs are open at WhatGoingDowney, so slide on in there. Just don't be weird, and hit me up with any and all of your NFL questions. First up from Tony. Will the Chiefs bring in DeAndre Hopkins? Certainly would not be a surprise. If the money is apparently an issue for KC, which they don't actually spend that much, which kind of maybe is a good thing for the rest of the NFL. They're kind of average spenders at best, which they could spend a lot more if they wanted to, but they don't need to. Hopkins would be a solid fit. They can let Kelsey do the underneath stuff. They can let Worthy be the speedy, gadgety guy at times, and then let Hopkins kind of be the bigger body, even though he's not as big as you might think. He plays pretty big. I think Hopkins, if the money can work out, 4th or 5th round pick, I think would be a pretty good swap for the Chiefs. Infamous SM. Any truth to the Stafford and Vikings rumors? If they trade Kupp, might as well fully commit to the rebuild. Hashtag Cam Ward season. Whatever QB Sean McVay gets, I think will end up being pretty decent, as long as it's not like a Stetson Bennett day 3 pick. As for Stafford Vikings, I know the reports you are referring to. Our Vikings channel, Patrick Seaman, kind of broke that down more in depth. Feel free to check it out. As of Tuesday, when we're filming this, that does not pass the smell test to me. Now, I could see a scenario this time next year that Matthew Stafford is not on the Rams. But I think they can better maximize their hypothetical trade return by waiting until after this season. The report in question does not have a very good track record, doesn't have a very good history. A lot of misses on that one. So you kind of lose me when your argument is, well, I'm not a newsbreaker, but if I see info, I'll share it as a response to, are you credible? That tells me you're not. So I don't buy it. Be fun if I'm wrong, though. EV, should Tampa trade for John Mechie or Jahan Dotson? Jahan Dotson just might not be very good. I think the Commanders won that trade. I think that's kind of clear right now, at least what we've seen so far in Philly. John Mechie's intriguing, though, because that's a younger player who's kind of buried in Houston. I think Mechie could be a fun trade acquisition for somebody like Tampa. Asher Bowman, how about Max Crosby to the Lions? Send him home. He did play at Eastern Michigan, so not that far away, I suppose. Really not far at all. I don't think the Raiders would do that. Like, Max Crosby is too important to them. He is the heart and soul of that team. I get things are bad and frustrating in Vegas. Man, if you trade away Max Crosby, short of him going up to Al Davis or Mark Davis saying, F you, pay me, and doing something bad to the grave of Al Davis, like, I don't think that would happen. I think that is a too important part for this current Raiders team to really give it much consideration. So will the Raiders, you can be honest here with me, trade Max Crosby? Y for yes, N for no. You can let me know at the pinned comment of today's video. The ad comes here on YouTube. Great. Take advantage of it. Head down there. Y for yes, N for no. Junior Estrada. Why hasn't Javon Baker been playing for the Patriots? Yeah, he's got, 6 snaps so far this season? It's a very small sample size for me to make any, sweeping statements. But given how much the Patriots have been playing not good receivers, I wonder if they just want to go with the more experienced ones. Does playing guys like KJ Osborne really benefit you? I kind of don't think so. I would like to see them play Jalen Polk more as soon as he fixes his damn drop issues. Not to make it about not Javon Baker there, but he didn't drop passes really at all at Washington, and he kind of just had dropped some ugly ones so far this year. I'm at the point where you should play your young guys. I don't know if Pop Douglas counts in that category. If so, fine. But I kind of want to see what I have at receiver because I don't think Kayshon Boutte's going to be a long-term piece for you, even if he's playing maybe among your better receivers. I would like to play your young guys and give them chemistry and time together with Drake May. But it might be a practice issue too. Might not be ready yet. Cole So Sporty. Should the Saints be buyers or sellers at the NFL trade deadline? They are currently 2-5 and look out of the playoffs. Here's the tricky bit that you end up getting yourself into when you start talking about buyers and sellers with coaches on the hot seat. I think it makes a ton of sense for the Saints to shop players like Jamal Williams, I doubt it, and Alvin Kamara. A Chase Young would be a great trade for them because he's on a 1-year deal. Get an asset for him, whatever. Trading away your older veteran guys because you're not that good this year. But if you do that, you're signing the pink slip for Dennis Allen. He's getting fired. So the coach doesn't want to do that. GM might say, doesn't matter. I got to do what's best for my organization long term, and that sucks for the head coach. Sydney, speaking of the Saints, Chris Olave trade. I think it'd be pretty dumb by New Orleans. Rashid Shaheed has been a really fun piece for them. I want to re-sign him. Bub Means, Mason Tipton, and Cedric Wilson Jr. You're going to trot those 3 guys out? Hell no. Chris Olave is a long-term part of my team. I'm paying him. So I don't think it makes any sense for the Saints to trade away. Trade at old guys? Yes. You get a call for even DeMario Davis? Okay, sure. I can see that. Maybe you want to trade Marshawn Lattimore. But a guy that should be here 5 years from now, like Chris Olave, expensive, yes? No. Because guess what happens if you trade away a guy like Chris Olave? You have to go spend that first-round pick you got for him on a receiver. I don't think that makes much sense. So name a player who you want to see traded. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Drop that player name or names if you're an overachiever. Dan, what is the Bears' floor and ceiling for this season and the next? Look, the ceiling next year is, if this continues, is pretty damn high. We've seen that second-year jump or second healthy year jump from teams like the Bengals and Joe Burrow, right, where they take that massive step forward and make a Super Bowl run. The floor this year is they fall apart offensively, their injuries, whatever, and they win 6 or 7 games, and that's the nightmare floor, right? I think the midway floor is they should be in playoff contention until the end of the season. I don't know if they'll make it. The NFC North is so tough that they can win a bunch of their other games and still only win 9 games. I think they should be a fringe playoff team this year. make it to the postseason. If they draw the Commanders or the Seahawks, whoever wins the NFC West, if not the 49ers, they can win that game. So they can be a lower-end playoff team that wins a road game. I don't think Super Bowl is quite there yet, though. Now, you can get the Caleb Williams jersey or the rookie jersey for your favorite NFL player over at chatsports.com/NFL jersey. A long list of player jerseys are available over there. Your favorite teams, players, search, filter, whatever you want to figure out what jersey exactly you want. Go get yours today. chatsports.com/NFL jersey. Link will be in the comment section and the description of today's show. Twisted Wizard 33. Do you see the Giants moving on from Sexy Dexy? I don't see that happening. And a huge reason why is he's too good. Like, you don't trade away that type of player, that type of asset. That is the guy who's leading the NFL in sacks and double team rate. Doesn't happen in football outside of Aaron Donald. Like, the Giants are not a good team right now. I know that. I will keep Dexter Lawrence. They'll probably have a high enough pick to get a quarterback anyway in the draft. I am keeping Dexter Lawrence because I think he is too good to justify trading at this time. Speaking of the Giants, with a decent answer for this question, who ends up with the number 1 pick in the 2025 NFL Draft? Drop that team name for me in the comment section of today's show. Who do you think ends up with that top pick? Richard Iacocco, NASCAR fan 24. Will the Bears trade for Myles Garrett or Max Crosby? I don't think so. I do think another edge is an area of focal point. I like Montez Sweat. You need more. You can ship out Dominique Robinson as part of the trade, I suppose. But I don't think that those teams, the Raiders, Browns, are going to trade those guys. Now, if you want to call about Zadarius Smith in Cleveland, that's a name I do think you could end up finding and getting an asset for. Shotgunna, just the Packers trading away Christian Watson. I don't think so. Watson's kind of a weird test case of, hey, he's been good when healthy, he's not healthy. And those guys almost always have higher internal trade value than external trade value because what are you going to get for him when you don't trust the health, right? So I'm intrigued by Watson. I like what I've seen from Dubs and Reed and Wicks. Like, I think that rotation of receivers is valuable. For the time being, no. Can check in again maybe a year from now, though. Now, if you enjoy our NFL mailbags, subscribe. It's free. All you have to do is hit that sub button so you don't miss out on anything. Mark Vargo, any chance the Falcons make any more moves, possible premium rushers? You made the move for Matthew Jones. I'd be a little surprised they went after another pass rusher. If I were to do something, I would look at corner. I think if you could find a corner, which I don't know who's really available that would be an upgrade, I'd explore that. I also wonder if you're just better off keeping your assets because you have to get some more young talent on the defense too. And I'm not sure Atlanta is in quite all in win mode. Yes, they have Kirk Cousins. Spent a first-round pick on Michael Penix Jr. too. DC times Viper. Which NFC North team could get squeezed out of making the playoffs? I think it ends up being the Bears. And I don't mean that on a slight at all. I've been pretty impressed by what Chicago has done as of late. But I think the Lions are the best NFC team. I think the Vikings are a top 3 NFC team. I think the Packers are at least the top 4 NFC team. Because the Bears have to play those teams 6 times combined, that's 4 to 5 losses minimum probably on your schedule. And that could end up being the difference between, they could win like 6 games out of the division and come up just short. So I like where the Bears are at, except playing in the best division in football is going to make it really challenging on them. If they were in the NFC West right now, or the NFC East, or the NFC South, I think we're talking about them as a playoff team. In the NFC North, they might end up being the 8th seed and the first team left out. Who you got? V for the Vikings or R for the Rams? Little Thursday night football action coming up this week for you. Not a bad game at all. They've got to figure out the Vikings have to beat the beaten up by the Lions curse that's happened. You saw it last year with San Francisco. Team that played the Niners lost the next week. Early returns have been that's the case for the Lions. I don't know what version of Thursday Night Football we're going to get because we had a clunker in week 2. Bills blew out Miami. Clunker in week 3. Jets blew out the Patriots. An ugly but close game between the Cowboys Giants in week 4. Awesome football game. Admittedly ugly against on defense between the Bucs and Falcons, an overtime thriller. Niners Seahawks was actually pretty good. A little lopsided late, but I thought it was a solid game enough. Denver Saints was kind of ugly. The Denver defense helped me out a lot in that one. Played them in fantasy, but it was not a pretty game. Alvin Kamara was terrible in that one. That was kind of a red flag there. So who you got? V for the Vikings, R for the Rams. Sip some water. Get your votes in as we get set up for some conversation. Actually, we'll get to that in a second. Good, thank you I almost threw that up there. As a reminder, we will be live for Dodgers versus Yankees. World Series begins on Friday. We'll be live right around 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. My boy Jack Louder Ray's got you covered. So subscribe. That way you'll get a notification when we go live for the World Series. Dodgers-Yankees, because turns out spending money does help you in baseball. I saw Nepo baby Ben Verlander, or Nepo brother Ben Verlander saying, well, the number one team's only won it 2 of the past 10 years. Like, yeah, dude, that's how math works. Go look at the proportion of high-paid payrolls to winning. There's your issue. Anyway, go subscribe, youtube.com/chatsportstv. Hit that big red button. We're talking Cooper Kupp trade on today's show. It, as we'll break down, suddenly very possible. The Rams ship out Cooper Kupp. We'll break down where things sit and some top trade destinations, but get your predictions in for me first. Will the Rams trade Cooper Kupp? Y for yes, N for no. Now, a couple different reports have emerged in the past 48-ish hours. Ian Rapoport saying that Cooper Kupp has drawn trades from other teams. Dianna Russini reporting the Rams are outright open to a deal. She mentioned on Tuesday that the Rams have called multiple teams about a potential Cooper Kupp trade, and they have shown a willingness to take on some of his 2024 salary and are seeking a second-round pick. Now, before the year began, this is how the Cooper Kupp contract broke down. A new team would owe him $15 million. Rams would save $20. As of right now, that number would drop to the new team owes about $9 million. The Rams would save about $14 million this year. If they eat some of that, it obviously goes up and down. That could make it very much affordable for a new team. They would owe only a guaranteed $5 million in 2025. Then you could cut him in 2026 if you wanted to. It's all very doable for all parties involved, especially if the Rams are willing to eat some of the money to get a better pick back. At that point, if you eat money, you're kind of in that Devontae Adams trade ballpark. Maybe a little bit more. You're in that Amari Cooper ballpark because Cooper was cheap, Adams was not. Now, Cooper Kupp's biggest issue is health. When he is healthy, he's been a really good football player. You know, you can look at it at his per 16 games stretch over the last 3 seasons. It's still really good. It's just that he hasn't played that many games in the past years. He's missed too much time. Missed time this year. When healthy, he's awesome. I don't think you're getting 2021 Cooper Kupp ever again. A new team is not going to give him 191 targets that year either. Now, I think he'd be a 1,000-yard receiver for you on average, not like the rest of the season, of course. So there should be value there, and there are plenty of teams that are in the market for wide receiver help. So prediction time. Who will trade for Cooper Kupp if anyone does so? It is the pinned comment on today's show. So if the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there. Let me know who you think trades for Cooper Kupp. We'll break down some Cooper Kupp trade destinations here. We'll go from 5 to 1. Different pros and cons, but I think these are my top 5 teams. Maybe a surprise contender emerges. Would not be the first time nor the last time. At number 5, the Los Angeles Chargers. He doesn't even have to move. He can stay right where he is. There's no moving having to deal with there. He just goes to the other LA team. And this, I think, does make some sense. The Chargers right now are a fringe playoff team in a kind of watered-down, not top of the AFC. Not Chiefs, not Ravens, Texans, Bills. Those wild card spots are open. They have some cap space, $8.6 million. It is a rebuilding year, though, for LA. It wasn't supposed to be an all-in aggressive season. So does that fit the timeline for Cooper Kupp? I also wonder a little bit about the fit. Now, Ladd McConkey can do inside-outside stuff. Cooper Kupp can as well. I think Kupp is at his best as more of the power slots, but that gives them a legitimate number 1 receiver. They don't have that right now for Justin Herbert. We've seen too many drops out of the Chargers wide receiving core. Although Kupp is not what he was in his prime, I think he's still pretty clearly the best of the bunch if he were to go to LA. Now, today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. It is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You simply pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to up to 100 times your cash. Is available in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, Texas. It is the only real money daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. So your lineups stay in play even if one of your guys gets hurt. If the player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks keeps your lineup live. They've invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. So download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first lineup. That's prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly when you play 5. You don't even need to win to get the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. It's Prize Picks. Run your game. Number 4 trade destination is the Baltimore Ravens. And I don't think they desperately need a wide receiver, but they're thin at the spot, and they're one injury away from being in really dire straits. They are right in the middle of their window, which they frankly always have open as long as Lamar Jackson is active and healthy, but this offense is clicking right now. And adding Cooper Kupp in that power slot mode, which you kind of have in Mark Andrews to an extent anyway, I think would better maximize their wide receiving core. It allows Zay Flowers to be a bit more of a true deep threat and not always the underneath yak guy. I think Cooper Kupp could take on some of those roles. And it gets Nelson Aguilar off the football field, which I think always ends up being a net positive. I've seen some better stuff from Rashad Bateman. It allows you some creativity. You can deploy the rarely seen 3-receiver, 2 tight end set in obvious passing downs. Derrick Henry fine. Gets breather on 3rd and 12. Zay Flowers, Bateman, Cooper Kupp, Isaiah Likely, Mark Andrews. A fun passing group. And it'll block for you too, which the Ravens like to have. Number 3, I think this is your sleeper, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And they probably, in fact, they would not have been on this list 48 hours ago before they played Monday Night Football. But now they're banged up at wide receiver. They have lost Chris Godwin for the season. Mike Evans is going to miss at least 4 weeks, it sounds like. They have cap space, and they have a connection. Liam Cohen, who was the Rams receivers coach, was the Rams assistant receivers coach, Rams OC briefly. He knows Cooper Kupp. Think about this receiving core right now. It's Mike Evans, Jalen McMillan, Sterling Shepard, who, look, Sterling Shepard is who he is. It is impressive that he's been able to play, but he's had like 3 catches all year, like of note, that probably shouldn't be overlooked. I don't know if Jalen McMillan is ready to emerge as a true starter. Mike Evans going to miss time. Godwin's out for the year. They can win the NFC South. Now, there's risk involved there pretty heavily, But I think Tampa's a fun dark horse destination. So if Cooper Kupp gets traded, we'll have a video for you, or at least a short on it. Might be done on one of our team channels. We got you covered with everything here on Chat Sports. We'll keep you in the loop with all the news and rumors around the NFL trade deadline. At minimum, we'll do NFL trade deadline winners and losers, and we'll put Cooper Kupp in that conversation. Don't miss out. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/chatsportstv. Pittsburgh Steelers fans are once again ready to get hurt. Every single big-name wide receiver who has been dealt or not dealt that has been linked in trade rumors, Pittsburgh has been a top 2 destination. They've gotten none of them. I do think Cooper Kupp fits pretty well as an underneath option for the Steelers offense. Now, Russell Wilson's passing chart was hilarious because he didn't even look at the middle of the field, which is where Cooper Kupp can do some good damage. But it's an upgrade over Van Jefferson, who Cooper Kupp knows. Calvin Austin. Roman Wilson's been banged up. Scotty Miller and Brandon Johnson. Shoot, I mean, there's a big impact wide receiver for you. It's not the same type of player as Brandon Ayuk or Devontae. It's a very different style of player. But Pickens feasts on the outside. Cooper Kupp can do stuff in the short area, over the middle. Steelers make sense as a destination. Before we get to number 1, rank Cooper Kupp among NFL wide receivers right now. Where does he rank among all the wideouts in football? Let me know in the comments of today's show. So Chargers 5, Ravens 4, Bucks 3, Steelers 2, the Kansas City Chiefs are number 1. And I hate this. This is unfair, but damn if it don't make a ton of sense. The Chiefs are banged up really bad right now at wide receiver with various injuries. Money has been the sticking point, but if the Rams are going to eat a bunch of the Cooper Kupp contract, the Chiefs can afford it. And they could if they wanted to anyway, but they don't want to spend money the way the Browns and Eagles do, which has worked out for them so far this campaign. They have Xavier Worthy. Juju Smith-Schuster's now banged up. Marquise Brown is not going to play. I don't think Rashee Rice plays this year. If he does, it's late in the season. It's Xavier Worthy, Justin Watson, Sky Moore, and McCole Hardman. Remember all those conversations last year about the Chiefs receivers aren't good enough? We're kind of doing it again. This allows you to basically put Cooper Kupp in the Rashee Rice role, which is the power slot. Short stuff, yak, crossers. You can add more dynamic routes than what the Chiefs have done with Rashee Rice. I hate it because it makes the Chiefs really good, but it'd be a great fit. So will the Rams end up trading Cooper Kupp? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know in the comment section of today's show. Right now it is 71% voting yes in favor of a Cooper Kupp trade. My lone request, it doesn't happen before I put that video out tomorrow. It's the only thing I am requesting today. So we will also be live again on Friday for Dodgers Yankees. My boy Jack Lottery will be live right around 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Should be a fun game. Ohtani, by the way, with runners on scoring position is unbelievable. Or with guys on base. Looks like, I don't know, the worst hitter ever with nobody on, and literally God with guys on base. It's truly incredible stuff. So make sure you guys are tuned in. YouTube.com/chatsportstv. Hit that sub button. See you live on Friday, and of course, videos all throughout the week.